In this video I'm going to talk to you about the clothing that I use for Scottish winter climbing. It's a lovely day today, but mostly in Scottish winter climbing we're climbing in some pretty challenging conditions. In fact, we have the whole spectrum from moving quickly on nice sunny days like this to the worst conditions imaginable. So although this is focused on what I do in Scotland, a lot of what I say will be relevant to other mountain areas of the world, such as the Alps, Patagonia, Norway and that kind of thing. So in Scottish winter climbing, we're really doing three things normally in the day. We're either walking on our approach on the way in or the way out, we're standing still belaying, or we're actually climbing. And so obviously the layers that we use change for those different tasks. So each of the layers that we wear in a Scottish winter day serve slightly different purposes. They've got to keep us warm, they've got to move moisture away from our skin, which also keeps us warm. They've got to give us protection against the rain, the wind, the snow, and they've got to keep us warm when we're standing still. The other major factor in any type of climbing is weight. We've got to carry all of this kit against gravity to take it up a mountain, and weight allows you to climb the hardest things you can climb, but it also allows you to just enjoy your day. I really like light kit, and so that's a major factor in the gear that I choose, as we'll see as I actually go through them. And so balancing all those priorities when you're choosing your kit is not all that straightforward, and that is why we obsess over designing them so much and also choosing them for different types of conditions. But in the main, I'm sort of choosing from a wide range of possibilities, and most of the choices I make have certain trade-offs, but they generally work for most things in Scottish winter climbing. So it's quite actually a small selection of kit that I take on the hill. So I'll start off with the base layer. So the purpose of the base layer is to give you some warmth. And the main way it does that is by moving moisture away from your skin. If there's moisture allowed to sit close to your skin, that will wick heat away from you, and you will lose heat very quickly, especially if you stop. So starting with the lower half, I'm wearing the kinesis pants. I used to wear sort of stretch fleece tights as a base layer on my legs, followed by Gore-Tex over trousers, so just 2 layers. But in the past couple of years I've changed to these kinesis pants, and the main reason I've done that is because I just really like the fabric and the feel and the way they climb. So these are a looser fitting pant. There's actually 2 versions of them. There's these ones I'm wearing, which is the standard kinesis pant, and there's the kinesis base pant. So I have a pair of kinesis base pants here, and these are just a slightly lighter version of the same thing, with the insulation is not on the whole trouser, and it's just a bit more venting in the back to wick sweat away. So which one I would choose would depend on the conditions on the day. If it's a day like today, I'd probably wear the base pants because I'm likely to be warmer and sweating more on the approach. And if it's going to be a really nasty day, I would stick with kinesis pants. And I should say that I also do a lot of rock climbing in the winter in the kinesis pants and kinesis jacket, which I'll talk about in a minute. And the main thing I like about them is just the fabric. I think they've really nailed it with this fabric. I'm always on the lookout for different fabrics that both feel nice to climb in and also just push that trade-off between warmth and weight as far as possible. So these pants are really super light, and that's the main thing I like about them. And design-wise, they're also not overcomplicated, and that also helps to keep the weight down. Okay, so going to the top half for base layer, I'm wearing the Eclipse hooded top, and this is on the warmer side of base layers that you can choose. And I prefer that just because I tend to feel the cold quite a lot, and also it suits quite well in Scotland because I would tend to do the whole approach in this top if possible, unless the weather's really bad. So it needs to give a fair bit of warmth for the later part of the walk-in when you're getting high up and it's getting colder. And it also does have a bit of extra protection in the hood. So if it's getting a little bit cold or just the wind picks up as you get higher, you can put the hood up and stay warm. Now I'm going to sound muffled here, but you also have the zip which goes right across your face, which gives you that extra bit of protection when you're on a belay. I'll talk about belaying in a minute, but having that extra protection across your mouth and your nose just helps to keep you that little bit warmer. That's so much better. So that's the base layer, the main purpose of which is to keep your skin dry and to wick sweat away. Okay, so mid-layer wise, I wouldn't tend to wear a mid-layer on my lower half unless it's a really, really nice day. Like today, if I was going ice climbing, especially if I was soloing, so I was moving continuously, I might wear a soft shell pant instead of waterproof over trousers. And for that, my go-to choice is a pant called the Mission pant, which are quite warm, stretchy, and just feel really, really nice to climb in. But More often than not, my favourite choice would be Gore-Tex over trousers, which I'll talk about in a minute, but while I'm on mid-layers, I'm going to talk about the top half. So my favourite mid-layer jacket is the Kinesis jacket, and I just talked about the Kinesis pants a moment ago, and I like the jacket for exactly the same reason, primarily because of the fabric. That sort of loose weave fleece lining is just absolutely lovely. It feels nice on your skin if you're wearing it close to skin, which I sometimes am if I'm rock climbing. I also use this a lot for rock climbing in the mountains in summer, in the valley crags in the autumn and winter. Then there's also other small things that I like. One of the things I like is that the cuffs are quite neat and cinched in, and that allows me to put my gauntlet gloves over the top of the Kinesis jacket, but then under the Gore-Tex shell layer, so it's just neat and gives, you know, the maximum insulation. That's what I want, is not for snow not to be able to get in there. So that's neat. All the layers kind of work together well, which is great. But what I really like is there's not too many features on the jacket. There are 2 hand warmer pockets on the side, which I do use a lot. I also, when we would come back down from a winter route, if we've left our rucksacks in the quarry and we're walking out in the dark, I'd put my phone in the chest pocket and I'd put my head torch in the side pocket, if I don't need it yet. And then they have those handy for phoning home to say that's me walking off the hill now. But other than that, I wouldn't really use the pockets too much in this jacket, so I don't want too many. The other thing that's really nice with all Mountain Equipment's jackets is that if the hoods are designed to work with a helmet, they work really well for that purpose. But this hood also works really well without a helmet if I need to, if I'm on a belay in summer rock climbing. Okay, so on to talking about the shell layer, and to do that, I'm going to get my helmet on because that's a very important part of how the shell layer works. The hat I'm using is the Eclipse hat, which is just quite a light hat which fits really well under my helmet. So for my shell layer, I'm wearing the Tupilac jacket and the Tupilac pants, and these are both Gore-Tex Pro shells. So the primary thing again to say about both of these is about the fabric. The fabric is really crucial, and I did a bit of testing with Gore-Tex Pro when it was in development, and they've refined it over a lot of years. And one of the things they've refined is you can now use different face fabrics with them, which gives you a bit more flexibility to design jackets and trousers that have the right trade-off between durability and weight, and that's always where you want to just be in the sweet spot between those two things. This jacket weighs about 500 grams, so it's a fairly light Gore-Tex jacket, but it's really, really tough, which it needs to be because it needs to withstand the scuffs and scrapes you get from climbing sharp rock, scraping your way up chimneys in mixed climbing. It's like kind of full body climbing, so you're always like rubbing up against things, and also just the constant rubbing of walking in and out of mountains for season after season. Same with the pants. They actually have some reinforced patches around where your climbing gear is, and you've got sharp ice screws here at the knees, and obviously also crampon kick strips as well, which are reinforced. But in general, the fabric will handle mantling onto ledges that are sharp, rough granite. So there's a good trade-off between the durability and weight. The main other thing beyond that for the trousers is just the fit. And both the Tupilac pants and jacket they've been on Mountain Equipment's range for a lot of years, and they've been refined over the years to get the fit just right, and they just feel great to climb in. The same with the jacket. If you raise your arm overhead to clear repeatedly, you're going to do that thousands of times in a day if you're doing a long mixed route. And if you're wearing a harness, you don't want the jacket to pull, you don't want to have a little bit of force there, because once you've done that 1,000 times in a day, then your arms are getting tired. So the reason I put my helmet on was to emphasize the importance of the hood. Sometimes when you're trying on a Gore-Tex jacket that's designed for climbing, and you try on the hood without wearing a helmet, it feels like cavernous, it feels absolutely huge. But it does need to have that space. And part of the reason it needs to have that space is to work under all your hoods. So I've got the hood from my Eclipse top, my base layer, I've got the hood from my mid layer, I can both put them over my helmet, and I've got the hood from the Tupilac jacket itself. So when I get to my belay, again, apologies, I'm going to sound muffled here, I can have my Eclipse base layer going right over my face and my nose. I can then have the Kinesis jacket doing the same. And then I can zip up the tough black jacket to do the same. If I just tuck that underneath my chin. So the one thing you don't want is for there not to be enough space in your chin under all these layers, so that when you're looking down to sort out ropes and deal with gear, that the layer tucks under your chin and then won't go back up again, and you have to open all the jackets to sort it out. So there's got to be ample space coming out here. So again, sometimes if you try that on without a helmet, you're like, why is there so much space here? But that's the reason. And you also want the hood to be cavernous enough to be able to fold it right down quite low once you cinch it up from here, if it's really stormy, to just give you maximum protection, so that once you have these layers over your nose and you have your goggles on, there's really no skin showing. And if you're walking on the plateau of Ben Nevis at night in a 90-mile-an-hour wind with hail blowing straight into your face, then you will really appreciate that. So again, this jacket is designed with climbing in mind, so it doesn't have hand warmer pockets at the side, because almost all the time I'm wearing it with a harness, so I don't have access to those pockets anyway. So I don't want them there because they're going to add extra weight, but I do like the two chest pockets, which I might put my head torch or my phone or my camera. In fact, I should just say something about my camera. I use this as a Sony ZV-1, and as many of you know, I make a lot of videos when I'm out climbing, and one of the reasons I got this camera is because of its ease of use with big gloves on. So you just flip open the screen and that turns the camera on, so then I can just press record and I can shoot whoever's climbing, and then I can turn it off just by snapping the screenshot. And usually I just have my chest pocket open and I can just place it into that chest pocket and leave it there. I also do carry a small camera bag which I clip to my harness, so I might have the camera in one chest pocket and maybe a bite to eat for a belay in the other. But other than that, I don't want any other pockets. There is a small zip pocket in the inside, but I must say that I don't really use that. Okay, so there are two other jackets that I would actually carry on the hill, and both of them are insulation jackets. So first of all, I'm going to talk about this jacket, which is the Fitzroy jacket. This is our standard insulation jacket. We would always call it a belay jacket, because that's the primary time when we'd be using it. Again, this jacket has been around in various forms for a number of years, and it's been refined and refined just to make it better and better. So I basically just live in this year round. It's my standard jacket to throw in my bag for climbing on north faces in summer on trad in the mountains. So, you know, you're still going to be cold when you're belaying, and it's just so easy to use, and just the right balance of weight versus warmth. And it's a synthetic jacket, so it'll also work well when it's wet. So I do use it year round. I also would throw it on to, you know, cycle to school on a winter morning with my daughter, that kind of thing. But it really comes into its own on a Scottish winter belay. Because it's synthetic, it will stay warm when it gets wet, but it's very resistant to get wet. It's not a waterproof jacket, but it's not far from it because the fabric is extremely water resistant. So again, you can put all your hoods up and put the Fitzroy hood up as well, and just hide in this jacket from the worst of the cold and the storm that you're in if you're standing still for a long time. So one thing I should say though is that no matter how big your belay jacket is and how many layers you have on, it's still really important to create some heat in order to be able to hold on to that heat. So if you're on a belay and you're standing still for a long time, as we often are on mixed climbing, could be 2, 3, 4 hours before you get to move again, you are going to be losing heat, and if you move in order to create some heat, then you'll be a lot more comfortable. And if you see any mixed climbers in the corrie on hard routes, you'll often see the belayer continually moving, either swinging arms if they're on a hanging belay, or if you're actually on a ledge, and that's a bit of a luxury because you can stamp and keep moving. I tend to do leg crunches non-stop like that, because that just uses a lot of big muscle groups and can get you really quite warm really quite fast. So the combination of an insulation layer and a little bit of movement should keep you reasonably sane on a belay, even if you've got to stay there for a long time. And that is really important for how your Scottish winter day pans out if you're trying a hard route. You know, if you're 2 or 3 pitches in on a day like this is mid-December, it's only just got light and it's going to get dark again soon. So as the light starts to tail off and you start to feel cold, the rope's not moving out very fast, and your morale starts to drop, and you start to think, maybe we should just retreat. You know, I'd really like to get out of this cold. And so that feeling can dictate whether you succeed or fail on the route. So it's really important. If you just have that little bit more warmth, you tend to have more morale, and you second up the pitch behind your partner and you say, let's keep going, we're nearly there, instead of saying, shall we just abseil off? One other thing to say about insulation jackets is actually about carrying them. So sometimes if it's a long hard route and conditions are poor, then both leader and second would carry an insulation jacket. And you can put this in a stuff sack and just clip it to your harness and do that. Or sometimes we would wear a small rucksack, which I'll just show you. So sometimes I would actually lead with a very small, super light rucksack, which I would just have my insulation jacket, maybe a small amount of fluid, maybe a snack, and maybe a spare pair of dry climbing gloves. And I would actually lead with that, and that way both the leader and second can take an insulation jacket. More often though, we would just have one insulation jacket between us, and the leader would climb without it, and then the second would second in the jacket, but then pass it to their climbing partner to wear as they lead the next pitch. And that system works quite well if the route's a little bit shorter and the conditions are not so bad. But even if I was planning to do that, I would still always take my insulation jacket in my bag, because it's just so invaluable to throw on, especially when you're you stop on the walk-in. I have it at the top of my bag, so I just fling it on so I don't get cold. And then also when you're gearing up at the start of the route, I put it on, and that just keeps morale high during the day. But also it just can be an absolute lifesaver if the conditions are really atrocious and you're in very high winds. Let's say you're trying to navigate off a plateau, and you just staying warm allows you to stay focused and make clear decisions when actually safety is a priority for getting off the hill. Okay, so the last insulation jacket to mention is this. This is a Superflux jacket. It's a synthetic gilet jacket, and I would sometimes wear this, because I feel the cold quite a lot, as an extra mid layer. And so I'm wearing it on top of my Kinesis jacket. Now, occasionally, on a day like today where it's sunny, it's not windy, I would actually not wear my Gore-Tex shell layer, but just wear this setup. Because if it's dry and cold, and so it's more like continental style climbing conditions, I might wear this for a pitch, but definitely take either my shell or my insulation jacket as well for standing still. Conversely, if I was climbing on quite a stormy day, then I would wear this under my Gore-Tex shell layer for a little bit of extra warmth. Not everyone needs that. It depends how much you feel the cold, but I do feel the cold, and so maybe about 50% of the time I will take this with me. So those are my layers for Scottish winter climbing. Thanks for listening, folks, and I hope you have a great winter and get many good routes done.